Breaking news: the Raiders are making headlines again, and this time, the heat isn't just on the players. Former Raider offensive tackle Lincoln Kennedy has spoken out, and his words have sparked major debate. He isn't fully buying Pete Carroll's explanation for the team's struggles, and he believes the real issue goes much deeper than just coaching decisions. But before we dive into the latest on the Raiders, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss breaking NFL updates. Now, let's get into it. So here's what went down. After the tough loss against the Commanders, Pete Carroll took responsibility. He said the short week, the long travel to the East Coast, and a lighter practice schedule were all factors. According to him, that game plan backfired, and he put the blame on himself. But Lincoln Kennedy? He's not buying it. He says this wasn't about practice schedules or travel fatigue, this was about effort. Kennedy pointed out that when defenders miss tackles, fail to wrap up, or give up explosive plays, that's not on the coach. That's on the players. Effort, intensity, and focus, that's where the breakdown happened. And honestly, it's hard to argue. From the opening kickoff, the Raiders looked flat. The very first play, a huge return by the Commanders, flipped the momentum instantly. Add in another punt return that turned into a touchdown, and suddenly the Raiders were fighting uphill all game long. Moments like that don't come down to X's and O's, they come down to execution. Still, Kennedy didn't stop there. He also had something to say about Chip Kelly and the offensive approach, and we'll get to that in just a second. The Raiders' struggles didn't stop with just one or two bad plays, it was a pattern. Take Jeremy Chin, for example. In a critical coverage, he looked lost. Instead of locking down his assignment, confusion set in, and it led directly to a massive touchdown. On another play, multiple defenders had the ball carrier wrapped up but couldn't finish the tackle. A 60-yard score followed. Missed opportunities, sloppy execution, those are back-breaking moments in any game. Now, to be fair, part of this does trace back to effort. But scheduling also played a role. Let's be real, the Raiders got the short end of the stick. They battled the Chargers on Monday night, then had to fly cross-country on a short week, while Washington came in with nearly 10 full days of rest and preparation. That's a brutal disadvantage. And of course, Washington had extra time to get their backup quarterback ready, which only added to the Raiders' problems. No doubt, the deck was stacked against them. But then comes the bigger point, Lincoln Kennedy isn't just talking about effort or schedule. He turned his focus directly onto Chip Kelly and the offense. His criticism? Too much shotgun. Kennedy believes Geno Smith needs to be under center more often. Why? Because from shotgun, defenders are getting into Geno's face almost instantly. The tackles, instead of holding their ground, are being forced back, collapsing the pocket from the edges. Geno doesn't thrive stepping up into pressure, he prefers rolling out into space. But defenses are sealing off those escape routes, and it's making life miserable for him. Now, I'll be honest, Kennedy's not wrong about everything, but he's not right about everything either. The bigger issue? The offensive line is getting destroyed up front. Dylan Parham has been missing blitz pickups, Alex Kappa gave up an unbelievable 11 pressures in just one game, and that's not even counting the struggles from DJ Glaze. Think about that, one lineman allowing more pressure than some entire offensive lines give up in a week. That's not just scheme. That's a serious execution problem. And yes, Kennedy does have a point about the shotgun, it's being used way too often. That's something we'll dig into even deeper. Now, let's not kid ourselves, DJ Glaze isn't just losing to speed off the edge. Too many times, he's simply been overpowered. Instead of holding his ground, he's getting driven straight back into the quarterback, collapsing the pocket from the inside. That's a huge problem. But here's where it gets even worse, the Raiders' obsession with shotgun formations is making the offense predictable. When you line up in shotgun over and over again, defenses don't have to guess. They already know what's coming. Think about it, if the running back lines up on the left side of the quarterback in shotgun, the run almost always flows to the right before bending back left. Defenses study that. Safeties on that side can cheat downhill because they know exactly where the ball is headed. The same thing happens if the back is on the right, it limits the direction the play can realistically go. And when defenses know what's coming, you're already playing from behind. That's exactly what Washington took advantage of. They sat in lighter boxes, trusted their man-to-man coverage, and used their safeties to attack the run lanes the Raiders were basically telegraphing. It worked, because the play calling was too predictable. And the numbers back this up. Against the Commanders, the Raiders lined up in shotgun or pistol 48 times. Guess how many times Geno Smith was actually under center? Only 12 snaps. 12. That's an offense screaming predictability, and Lincoln Kennedy was absolutely right to call it out. Think about this for a second, 48 snaps from shotgun, only 12 under center. That's not just unbalanced, that's insane. And it creates another problem, the running backs don't get the same momentum. When a quarterback is under center, the handoff comes with the back already moving forward. He has a couple of steps to build speed, to hit the line of scrimmage with power, and to read the blocks up close. But in shotgun, the back is still 3 or 4 yards away when he makes his cut. By the time he decides where to go, defenders are already closing in. Safeties see it, react instantly, and shut the lane down before it ever opens. That's a major reason why this offense looks flat. And here's the kicker, it's not just an offensive problem. On defense, the Raiders are falling into the same trap, predictability. Out of 92 snaps from a single high safety look, about 80 of them have ended in the same thing, cover 3 zone. That means when opponents see that safety sitting deep, they know exactly what's coming almost every time. Imagine running 30 plays against that look and realizing 26 of them are cover 3 zone. That's basically giving the offense the answers to the test. Washington saw it, attacked it, and scored. The Chargers saw it, attacked it, and scored. And if this doesn't change fast, the Bears will see it too, and they won't just score, they could light up the scoreboard for 40. The NFL punishes teams that are predictable, and right now, the Raiders are giving away their playbook before the snap. The Bears proved the point, when you know what's coming, you can score at will. They dropped more than 30 points without breaking a sweat, and the Raiders are setting themselves up for the same punishment if things don't change. On offense, it's too much shotgun. On defense, it's too much single high coverage. And at the end of the day, that falls on Pete Carroll. Yes, Chip Kelly is still finding his footing. Yes, Patrick Graham is calling plays. But let's be real, this doesn't look like Graham's scheme at all. He's a disciple of Brian Flores and Bill Belichick. His philosophy is built on disguises, on too deep safety looks, on keeping quarterbacks guessing. What the Raiders are running right now is far too simple, and that comes from Carroll setting the direction. And the problems don't end there. A former NFL tight end, now analyzing games, didn't hold back either. He said straight up, Chip Kelly's offense feels like a college playbook dropped into the NFL. Wider hash marks, slower defenses, and more space, that's why those plays worked in college. But in the pros? The field is tighter, defenders are faster, and mistakes turn into interceptions. The criticism doesn't stop with route concepts either. Blocking angles are off, run plays look predictable, and there's no creativity. No motion, no misdirection, nothing to make defenses think twice. Compare that to Sean McVay's offense. He'll use one formation to disguise 10 different plays. He'll send players in motion, flip the strength of the formation, and still keep defenses on their heels. The Raiders don't have that versatility right now. That's why this team is struggling, not just because of missed tackles or blown blocks, but because the entire system feels out of sync. Pete Carroll looks lost, Chip Kelly's offense isn't translating, and the Raiders are paying the price. Here's something that really stands out about the shotgun issue. When you look across the league, the teams that run shotgun the least are the ones putting up the best offensive numbers. Think about it, Seattle, the Rams, the Lions, the Bears, the Packers, the 49ers, the Bills. These are all offenses that find ways to move the ball and score, and they don't live in shotgun. Now flip it around. The Raiders rank near the top in shotgun usage, 8th most in the NFL. And the teams above them? The Jets, the Titans, the Giants, the Saints, the Falcons, offenses that have struggled badly. Yes, the Cowboys and Commanders are on that list too, and while they've had flashes, they aren't exactly the gold standard of efficiency right now. What does that tell you? The more a team leans on shotgun, the more predictable they become. Even teams like the Eagles and Chiefs, who are normally explosive, have seen their scoring dip this year while running heavy shotgun looks. The Chargers are one of the few who make it work, but they balance it out with plenty of under-center snaps. This brings us back to the Raiders. Pete Carroll has already mentioned they need to tighten up their offensive line plan, and part of that means breaking away from being so shotgun dependent. That's where Jackson Powers-Johnson comes in. Carroll was asked directly about reshuffling the offensive line and if he'd consider moving Jackson back to center like he did last year. His answer? A firm no. Carroll made it clear, the staff has invested in players holding their current spots. But he did confirm something important: this is the first real week where Jackson will get the chance to practice fully, compete for snaps, and prove himself. Carroll even said he and Alex Bars will be battling for playing time. So, the door is wide open. The Raiders need stability inside, and now Jackson finally has the chance to step in and show what he can do. And here's where things really get frustrating. We were told earlier in the week that Jackson Powers-Johnson was in line to start. Now Pete Carroll is walking it back, saying JPJ will be competing with Alex Bars for playing time, and that he won't be moving to center. That's a big shift, and honestly, it doesn't make much sense. The Raiders' offense is already predictable, and so is the defense. Heavy doses of cover 3 against smart play callers just doesn't cut it in today's NFL. Look at the last 5 or 6 Super Bowl winners. The top defenses leaned on 2 high shells, not the old-school single-high looks. Yet here we are, stuck in the same script. And what's even more concerning? The offensive line decisions. JPJ is flat-out more talented than every other interior lineman on the roster. Dylan Parham just came off a game where he completely blew protections, missing blitz pickups that led to free rushers and sacks. Plays like that kill drives. Yet Carroll doesn't mention making a switch, doesn't hold Parham accountable, and doesn't commit to JPJ. Meanwhile, guys like DJ Glaze are still starting despite being one of the weakest links. To me, this screams of stubbornness. Pete Carroll has a resume full of success, but what worked in the past doesn't guarantee results now. Add to that a rookie GM in John Spytek who already looks shaky with early draft returns, and it raises even bigger questions about the direction of this team. Compare that to what Tom Telesco built. Guys like Brock Bowers and JPJ were instant impact players, while Spytek's class hasn't delivered. Here's the reality: if Carroll and this staff don't adapt, both in scheme and in personnel, this season could unravel fast. There's still time to turn it around, but right now, it feels like the Raiders are on thin ice.